And with that, I'm going to turn it over to George and Neil from Sony to talk about PlayStation Mobile. Thanks, you guys.
Okay. All right, thanks for coming. So this presentation is about PlayStation Mobile, which we officially launched on October 3rd, this month. My name is George BAIN, and I work in our third-party relations department back in London. This is Neil Brown. He'll be helping me present this new PlayStation Mobile initiative. So we have lots of slides, so let's get started. So I'll first quickly cover the first half, and Neil will quickly discuss the technical development side of PlayStation Mobile. So this new initiative brings games and non-games to PlayStation certified devices around the world. So this is a new approach for PlayStation, as PlayStation Mobile is more open compared to our traditional platforms. The main objective is to bring casual game creators to PlayStation, and we see a lot of potential for small independent studios to bring their casual games to PlayStation Mobile. So PlayStation Mobile coexists with our other platforms, PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita. However, there's a totally different development approach to PlayStation Vita. It does not require a dedicated custom development kit. You can create your PlayStation Mobile games using a consumer PlayStation Vita or a PlayStation certified Android phone or tablet or our PC simulator, which is included in our SDK. So the concept is very familiar to everyone in this room. It's an app store concept, open environment, whereby pretty much all the content that is submitted is approved. We have a few days of testing to make sure that your game doesn't crash on our PlayStation certified devices, but that probably take only a few days. And we're targeting developers such as homebrew developers, our garage developers, all the way up to professional developers to create content for PlayStation Mobile. Neil will discuss more about the SDK in the second half of the presentation. So the great thing about PlayStation Mobile is that there's one global submission, one executable that you submit on our publisher portal, and the game is accessible on the PlayStation Store, on PlayStation Vita, and on our tablets and smartphones. Sorry, this is taking a while to load on this laptop. So this is a list of our current supported devices. You can see all of our Xperia range of mobile phones, our tablets, and PlayStation Vita. And coming soon, we have the HTC smartphones, Wikipad, Fujitsu, Asus, and Sharp. And we're working with other hardware partners to bring more certified devices on board. This is a list of our of the countries which currently support PlayStation Mobile. So these countries have very high ARPU. So we are working with the store team to add additional countries, and we'll be announcing these countries at a later date. The PlayStation Mobile business model is very similar to the current mobile digital stores you see in the market today. It's very simple. On a publishing portal, when you submit your game, you select which price you would like it to be on the PlayStation Store, and it's as simple as providing us the wholesale price. And I have a few slides here before I pass it on to Neil of the PlayStation Store on our Xperia phone. So you can see here, it's a very dedicated area. It's an app that you launch on a PlayStation certified device. Your games are listed in different categories. Here's another screenshot running on PlayStation certified phone. And then we also have the store for PlayStation Mobile, dedicated area. This is a screenshot of the store on PlayStation Vita. And you can see in the top right, a section PlayStation Mobile. And all the PlayStation Mobile games are completely separate from the Vita games. So you have a dedicated area where consumers can find and purchase your content. So I'll quickly pass on to Neil. We don't have much time to talk, and Neil will take over, and I'll take over from Neil on this side.
Thanks, George. Just work out this clicker. Hi everyone, my name is Neil. I'm Senior Team Leader in Developer Support Team in Ski R&D. We provide technical support for developers on all Sony platforms. And I'm going to cover first of all the developer program and then move on to a technical overview of PlayStation Mobile. So we are currently running a completely open beta for developers. The beta is downloadable by anyone, and right now it's totally and utterly free. This includes the ability to test on target devices. You don't even need to tell us who you are to download it, so it's a great opportunity if you want to see your game running on a Sony device. Just download it and have a play around. Very soon, the beta will end and the full developer portal will open. And then you'll be able to submit your code and your game to appear on our store. There'll be 2 levels of access at this point. With a simple registration, which is just involves using your PSN ID to log in, you'll be able to download the SDK and all the tools. For a $99 publisher license, you get the ability to test your games on certified Android devices and PlayStation Vita, as well as actually submit your game to the store. Right now, when you click on the Open Beta, you get to this page. This allows you to download the full SDK to your Windows PC. You can download the developer assistant to PlayStation Vita. You need to do this via the actual Vita device, not through a PC. And it also provides a link to the developer forums. And the developer forums have been set up and are public and will remain public when we go to the full open environment. We already have a thriving developer community, and we understand the value of a friendly sharing environment, so we will allow demos and samples and libraries to be shared within the community. And it provides 2 really useful additional functions. Developer support will be on the forums. It will be primarily community-based. However, engineers from my team will also be on the forums to answer questions that the community can't answer. And if you've been on the forums already, you'll have seen us there. You can also let us know what you think. We're of course open to any feedback you may have, and we're eager to avoid falling into any of the pitfalls we've seen others make. We'll genuinely listen to any suggestions you have, and we have a suggestions section on the forums where you can suggest anything you want, and other developers can vote on these suggestions, and we'll look into implementing the most popular. We have an announcement section, and we also have, like everyone these days, a Twitter feed you can subscribe to. Now on to the technical overview, and I'll be covering all areas, including the language, libraries, and tools. Let's start with the language. We're using C#, which is a modern, high-level programming language. It's relatively easy to learn and use, and a lot of it, you may have experience of it from other platforms. The C# runs on top of a mono virtual machine, which provides direct binary compatibility across multiple devices. This means you create a single executable, and it will just work on all supported devices. Using native code is not allowed, and the reasons for this are it provides extra security and also guarantees predictable output and full cross-platform compatibility on all the devices. We may provide support for additional languages in the future, and this will be based on developer feedback. So if you've got a language you'd really like to see there, let us know in the forums and other developers can vote on it. Under the hood, the PSM fits together like this. Your app sits at the top, and use our libraries to create something that will run on the mono virtual machine, which is compatible with the .NET framework. Mono will do all the hardware-specific stuff for you, and your game will then run on any certified hardware. The memory available for your app is 96 megabytes, and this is split between a resource and managed heap, and you decide this split when you create the app. More than this will actually be used on the device, as the virtual machine will take up some memory for things like just-in-time compilation. C# supports multi-threading, and so do we. And if you use threads, the mono VM will schedule them automatically for you. It's not a requirement to use multi-threading, but it would be a good idea if you're going to be using a CPU-intensive algorithm such as physics in a 3D environment. Here's a screenshot of the PSM IDE, which is called PlayStation Mobile Studio. It's a custom version of MonoDevelop that runs on Windows. It includes a debugger and a full set of project templates. If you're familiar with Visual Studio, it'll be very similar. Shortcuts like pressing F5 to run your game will all work. Any hardware device you have attached to your PC will show up in the drop-down menu, and you can select the device you want to run your code on. Executing code is really easy. You build your game in the PSM Studio, and the binary is compiled into a single intermediary binary that's transferred onto the device. It will then be compiled just in time on the device itself, and then the game will execute. And using PSM Studio, this is just as simple as pressing F5. The game will build, transfer, and run in a single step. For the game to run on an attached device, you must have the PSM Development Assistant installed on the device. Once the beta is finished, you must have a publisher license to access this development assistant. For a certified Android device, it's as simple as just plugging it into your PC and it will automatically upload. And as I said earlier, for Vita, you need to download it through the web browser. There are no complex setup instructions, it just works. If you don't have any hardware, then we also provide a PC simulator to test your code. This means that assuming you have a Windows PC, there is zero cost required to start testing out PlayStation Mobile. The SDK comes with a lot of useful stuff, and I'll be going through all of these individually. There are, of course, lots of samples, and as well as basic stuff showing how to use the APIs, we have a number of demo games and demo applications showing how everything fits together from a larger point of view. The API itself is very straightforward in style. It's class structured, simple, and easy to use. There are a number of core APIs, including graphics, audio, where we support MP3s and WAV files, input, imaging, vector method environment, which is file I/O, that sort of thing. For graphics, we support the standard texture formats. The current SDK doesn't support compressed textures, but they are on the roadmap, so they'll be coming soon. If there are any other formats you'd like to see, then let us know, and we'll look into including them too. Like all modern platforms, we support vertex and fragment shaders. Like everything else, these are compiled at runtime on the CPU. The API is very similar to OpenGL-ES2, but it's class structured. The shaders themselves are written in standard CG, which is very similar to HLSL. So if you have any HLSL code, there should be no problems porting it over. GLSL is a little bit different, but we do provide a converter in the SDK, so you can convert all your GLSL code into CG really easily. If your game is running on a device without physical buttons, and you do need them for your game, then the virtual machine will show them on screen. The button API is transparent between the physical and the virtual buttons, so you don't need to do anything specific for either device. You don't need to know which device your game is running on. You have complete control over the positioning and layout of these buttons, and you can vary the appearance too. And we have a customization tool that lets you do that really simply. You can change the size and position of the buttons, you can rearrange the positions, you can decide which buttons to actually include, so if you don't need the triangle button, you don't need to show it on screen. And you can also, if you want, have a different set of button sizes and positions based on the device. So if you want to have your buttons in a different place on a tablet, that's easy to do as well. As well as the core APIs, we also provide a number of higher level APIs. If you want to create a 2D game, we provide a complete 2D game engine called Game Engine 2D. Though of course you can use your own if you prefer. It contains the basic functionality you need, such as sprites, scene graphs, a scheduler, actions and particles, and so on. The API is conceptually similar to Cocos 2D, and we provide full source code for this so you can modify it to suit your own needs. Or you can just use it for reference. We provide a 2D physics library as well, based on Box 2D. This works in conjunction with Game Engine 2D. And we provide a number of samples of different physical scenarios. We provide a UI system that you can either build completely in code or through a UI composer that we provide. It's a simple, easy-to-use design tool and is equally useful for creating non-game apps as well as the menus within games. The UI composer allows you to import Flash animations, both Project XFL and Motion XML files, or you can create the UI completely within the composer itself. Both the code level toolkit and the composer GUI control the layout only, so you need to hook your game into the code in the backend. And again, full source code is provided here, so you can change it how you want. Getting close to the end of the roadmap over here, so I'll cover the roadmap. Hopefully I've shown it's a pretty simple API. So coming soon, we're going to have proper Visual Studio integration, if that's what you prefer. If developers want it, we'll provide additional programming languages, provide additional support for tools for creating 3D model data. We'll have low-level audio API, camera API, location API, video playback, DRM, additional network services, and a whole bunch of PSN features. The order that we do these new features is going to be driven by the community. So if you want to see one of these more than one of the others, then please let us know, and we'll bump that up our schedule. We've had the open beta for a while now, and we've had really positive feedback from developers, especially developers saying how easy it is to create games for. But I really recommend you have a look at the forums and see what real developers are saying about it, rather than just listen to us to say how great it is. And of course, the PSM store is now live, so you can check out all the launch titles. There's been quite a lot to get through there. I'm only slightly overrunning. PSM is a new approach to game development for Sony, with a lot of differences from our standard model. You don't need to get concept approval from us. It's cheaper to develop for. It has a really easy-to-use, high-level API. Saying that, the cost of using a virtual machine is a slight performance reduction. So if you want to create a large-scale, graphically intensive game, we still recommend making a native PS Vita title. We stick with the common industry standards for data formats. The assets are either commonly used types, or we provide converters from commonly used types. And we provide lots of tools to make development really easy, including a user interface composer and a tool for customizing the on-screen buttons. The idea is to make your development as easy as possible. You're only going to get a good feel for PSM by having a play around with it. So I'd strongly recommend you download it and have a look. It's really quick and easy to do and free at the moment. Thank you. And are there any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. It was really nice to see what's new there. But just to understand it really, with using PlayStation Mobile, I'm limited to the PlayStation Store then there. Where would you say is the big advantage over, say, a system like Unity, where then I have full control and I'm not exclusive to that realm of games then there?
No, it's a good question. I think that what's great about PlayStation Mobile is that we have a huge PlayStation brand loyalty. And I think a lot of consumers who already have a PlayStation Vita have the ability also to download PlayStation Mobile games. So most of the games are much lower cost than a full-blown PS Vita game that could be like £50. So having an option on the PlayStation Vita store to purchase small games at a much lower cost is quite positive. And for developers to be able to create a PS Mobile game that's playable on all PlayStation certified phones and playable on all Vita devices, it's actually quite positive on the development side also. So I think it's positive for developers, small developers, who cannot afford to develop a large-scale PS3 game, for example. True. Yes. I mean, the big difference is the Vita. You do have the dual analog sticks that your games can use. Neil showed some slides where it has the on-screen PlayStation buttons. But the great thing about PS Mobile games is that they do have access to the control system of the PlayStation Vita, which a lot of developers actually appreciate.
How many PlayStation certified devices have been sold so far? How big is the opportunity for us as developers?
I don't have the installed base of the certified phones. I don't have it here.
What's the Vita, maybe?
We announced Vita at Gamescom, the figures globally at Gamescom. I think it was over 2 million for Europe at Gamescom.
Well, thank you for your presentation. That was very good. And however, I have one probably big question as a developer myself.
Mm.
You say no native code, so like C#. But say, for instance, Microsoft failed with the games on Windows Phone 7 due to all the developers. What Microsoft did, they did the same, asked to port all the existing code base, hundreds, thousands of billions lines of code to a new language. And no one actually really did it. And with Windows Phone 8, they releasing the native SDK. So the game could run native on Windows Phone. And don't you think it will be do the same harm to the Vita system when you say like no native code allowed? Do the C# rewrite your the whole engine, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to create a new system that you have to support with another code base? So for developers, that's a huge pain.
Comments?
It is, but one of the advantages of doing it like this is we avoid fragmentation. So you have one game that will work on all these devices. If you wrote at a native level on Vita, it wouldn't necessarily run on an Android device and vice versa. And the idea of PlayStation Mobile is it's one game that will run on every device that supports PlayStation Mobile, not just a subset.
What about approach guys from Marmalade did? So the game is processor dependent, not the platform dependent. So they have the same single binary that could run on all the devices with the same processor instead.
It's still some fragmentation because not all devices will have the same processor that run PlayStation Mobile.
Okay, thank you. So you see, you don't really scared about developers simply not being writing the games for the platform due to they have to change to a new language the whole system.
Well, there's positives and negatives to it.
So I think that's all we have time for. Thank you both.